Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the show called The Democratic View. I am the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and I have with us a man who I believe is going to be, unless some devastating thing happens, is going to be our next town supervisor, and his name is Larry Cantwell, and we are so happy to have you.
And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
I hope you don't jinx me, though.
No, believe me, I blessed you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
So, as we mentioned before the show, as I always try to find out a little bit about people, you are a true monarch. And boy, I envy you growing up in this unbelievable place.
Very fortunate to have grown up here. You know, as I've said, people ask me, well, you know, what was it like? And I often explain it to people who haven't grown up here as growing up here is like never leaving your mother's womb, because as a child, you know, growing up here, it was like, I mean, the safety and security of the community was incredible, and you have such a warm feeling of safety and caring that's with you at all times when you're growing up. When I was growing up as a child.
And you wandered around and you never had to worry about anything.
No, I mean, it was great. I mean, in those days, obviously, the community was a lot different. You know, I could leave the house, you know, in the morning, in the summer, and go out and play sandlot baseball all day long. And as long as I was home, you know, by dinner time or lunchtime, whatever my mother's instructions were, no one even questioned where you were. I mean, there was that level of safety. It was wonderful. And then the other thing is, in the neighborhood that I grew up on Bunker Hill Road, you know, which was an Italian community, there was always somebody watching you. I mean, you really couldn't get away with anything, because if you did something wrong, you know, one of my aunts or uncles would report by telephone to my mother, and when I came home, she'd be standing in the door, shaking her finger at me.
Yes, I know that feeling. Or I had that same kind of thing even in the Bronx.
Yeah, right.
If you went to church and you talked too much, they told my grandmother.
Yeah, right.
And my mother gave it to me.
That's right.
So I know there's always people watching, but that's good, because that, as an educator, I'm very much in favor of children being watched and protected. So I understand that you became an elected Bay Constable. Mm-hmm. Does that still exist?
The position, the Bay Constables, I believe, still exist, but they're no longer elected. There came a point in time when the town decided, and in a referendum, the community voted for the Bay Constables to become, you know, appointed positions as opposed to elected offices. But historically, the town had Bay Constables for over 50 years. And in law, at the time it was established, they were elected positions. So when I was 25 years old, I was elected to the position of Bay Constable.
And what did a Bay Constable do?
Sort of like a conservation officer, except just for local town codes for regulating shellfish and fish, you know, and the waterways of the town. So I spent, you know, my time mostly in a boat or on the shoreline, you know, checking for people to make sure that they had their shellfish licenses, that they weren't exceeding the limits, that they weren't taking undersized clams or scallops. And it was. I mean, I enjoyed it a great deal. It's
Sounds like a wonderful job to me.
It was one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life.
Yes, we all have those best jobs that we ever had in our lives. And but you did go away to college, didn't you?
I did. I was a graduate from CW Post College on Long Island with a degree in business administration.
Uh-huh. And you went from Bay Constable to?
Town board. A year later, there was a vacancy on the town board, and I ran for that seat. against, I think it was John Lester, who had been appointed to that position to fill a vacancy. And I won that election and ran twice more for the town board and won.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
really served on the town board
For,
a
I think it
while.
was 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And how did you get into the village?
Well, I had been, I'd been a Bay Constable and I'd been on the town board. I think I served in elected office for around 7 years. I'd been involved just because of the way it worked with the elections and the vacancies. I ran for office like 3 or 4 out of 5 or 7. 4 times in 7 years I had to run for public office. And at that point, I was probably in my early 30s, and I got married. We had a child, and I was ready for something that was a little more stable, and an opportunity came up to be appointed clerk treasurer in the village of East Hampton, and I took that job, and I stayed with that for 32 years, as you know. Yeah.
And in that job, you really kind of, it seems to me, managed the town of East Hampton.
The village of East Hampton. Yeah. That clerk treasurer's position evolved into what's called village administrator, which includes the clerk's and treasurer's responsibilities. So I was the chief financial officer and managed the day-to-day affairs of the village, reporting directly to the mayor and the village board. And pretty much was involved in all the business operations of the village with respect to all kinds of issues, and dealing with personnel, negotiating union contracts, dealing with mundane items like liability insurance and many other things on a day-to-day basis, and then working with the other department heads in the village, the superintendent of public works, the chief of police, the beach managers, all reported to me, and then we coordinated and carried out the policies that were established by the mayor and the village board. I had a wonderful time working there. It was one of, I look back very fondly on my experience in the village.
It sounds to me like you were in school to learn how to become the supervisor of East Hampton, because all the things you're talking about are all the things you are going to be facing when you take on that role of the supervisor. Now, we all know that there is a little, although the Republicans don't have a candidate yet that's really running against you, you are working party and independent party endorsed.
And Democratic Party endorsed.
Oh,
Don't forget
that. Are you kidding? That's my middle name. And so are you anticipating that there might be a challenger?
I don't know. As you probably know, the Republicans did not field a candidate, but are now apparently having a primary, an open primary in September, in which Republicans can go to the polls and write in a candidate. And as that evolved and became obvious to me in the past couple of weeks because of letters that have been written to the editors of the papers, apparently what they're trying to do is get me elected in the primary to be on the Republican line. And I'm going to refuse to do that because it's just unfair. And I'll tell you why I think it's unfair. It's unfair to the voters of East Hampton, I believe, to not have a choice in the election. The Republicans should field a candidate, and we should have an opportunity to debate the issues, because there are very serious issues that this community faces, and I think a dialogue about them is very important. I think it's unfair to me. It's not my responsibility to choose a Republican candidate. That's the Republican committee's choice. And to blame me for the fact that they may not have a candidate is just patently unfair to me, because that's the Republican committee's responsibility. And third, it's unfair to the candidates who I support for town board, Joe Potter and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, and I'll tell you why. I'm very proud to have the Independence Party endorsement. And because the Independence Party endorsed all of the other Republican candidates, including the Republican candidates for the town board, I'm going to appear on the Independence Party line with the Republican candidates. And I'm also going to appear on the Democratic line with Joe Potter and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, who I support. If I also appear on the Republican line, I'm going to appear on 2 major lines with Republican candidates and only one line with the 2 candidates who I support, who are Job and Kathy, and I think that's unfair to them.
Oh, that's very good thinking. I hadn't thought about it exactly in that way. And, but you did mention something which I really have to get to, which is there a plate this big in front of you
Yes.
with issues that are so deep
Yes.
and so devastating. They are really about the life of this town.
Yes.
Is this town going to go on as a town, or is this town going to completely crumble and be something very different, and maybe not even be able to exist after a while if we're not, wary of our water and both the water at our shores and the water that's down in the ground. So you have an enormous, enormous task in front of you, and I thank God that it's somebody like you who has that kind of training, as I said, you were like in school, to be this job, because it really, you need to have a lot of knowledge about how to attack some of these problems.
Yeah.
The problems are unbelievable. And I read over your policy statement that has just come into my hands and will be on the website within the next day or two. By the time this show airs, it will be up there. And it's 25 pages and touching very, in some areas very comprehensively, in some areas a little bit more tentatively. And I'm glad I'm not you, is all I got to say. Good luck, buddy.
Thank you. I mean, I have an approach to this, and part of it has started in our campaign, which was first to have a series of listen-ins where Job, Kathy, and I appeared at listen-ins in Springs. We've had one in Montauk. We recently had one in Amagansett, and we intend to have additional forums in East Hampton, Sag Harbor, and hopefully in Wainscott as well. And part of the purpose of that is to reach into the community and listen to what people's concerns are. Because this is all about building a consensus. You're right, there are some very serious issues we face, whether it's coastal erosion, groundwater protection, toxic algae blooms in our surface waters, killing our shellfish and our fish, the town budget, the airport, the list, overcrowded houses in Springs, nightclub noise in Montauk, the list goes on and on. And in order to address those issues, we need to build a consensus in the community about what those issues are and how we should confront them. That's what leadership really is all about. And I'm looking forward to working with a town board that wants to build a consensus and take those issues on. We're not going to solve them all immediately, but I think if we're very deliberate about what we do, if we bring the community along with us and ask them how to resolve these issues and work together as 5 people on the board, regardless of who they are, independently, with the goal of doing what's best for the community, we can begin to address those issues, and we can save this community, and we can make this a better community for all of us.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, because I know that even when, using an analogy of the classroom, which is what I spent my life in, and in the school as an administrator, you can't see a problem and say, that's it, I got the answer, boom, boom. Problems are not solved like that. Problems are solved one thing at a time, until you build up the solution by, pulling the string here and pulling the string here and tightening it all up there. And what was so fabulous about these 3 listen-ins, which I have been to every one of them, and to hear people be willing to get up and talk about the really deep unhappiness that seems to be pervasive in our town right now. It's really kind of overwhelming. I just hope that we are going to get that kind of a group of people that are going to understand the problems. I mean, I know Sylvia and Peter very well, and I have interviewed Job, so I know him too. You know, when you know somebody, you can see how their minds work and what their background is, and how they can attack a problem and go after it and just try to begin to solve it. And it is very, very important that we make sure we do get the people to work with you who are going to support and work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's no question about it. You know, I think the community's looking for, you know, that kind of leadership on the board. And you're right. I mean, some of these issues are fairly complex, but we've got to go through a deliberative process in order to arrive at these solutions. And some of the, you know, some of this also is you know, there's clearly, and this is, you know, what elections really should be all about. It shouldn't be about the inside party politics stuff and, you know, some of the unfortunate negativisms that creeps into these campaigns. There really should be about, what is my vision of the community? What is my vision about the future of East Hampton? And that's really what, you know, the community should ask of all the candidates. What is your vision? Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why Job, Kathy, and I wrote a 23-page document and released it last week about what our vision of East Hampton is, and we called it Where We Stand. It doesn't address every issue yet at this point. We'll be addressing more issues as this campaign develops. It doesn't address every issue in every detail, but it touches on many of the major issues that people are talking to us about and that we know the community faces. And it gives our opinion about how we would approach resolving those issues or addressing them. So we've laid out a vision, and we think that the vision of the community is a very important thing for people to think about in selecting their candidates.
You know, that's exactly what a principal in a school has to have, a vision for the school. Yeah. You have to have that kind of holistic view of where you want to go and what you want to happen. Go ahead.
No. I mean, you know, like I get passionate about these things. I mean, and it's also about a passion for the community. I mean, again, you know, there's a lot of different qualifications for public office. In my case, I feel really emotional about the fact that I've had the privilege to grow up here. So I've had a lifetime of experience in this community. I mean, I know most parts of it. Most people know who I am. I know most people. I've been in almost every neighborhood over that lifetime. You know, it's about my 37 years of public service to the community and the record that I've had over that period of time. I care deeply about this place. I mean, I never want to leave. You know, I feel blessed to have grown up here. I feel very grateful for the community supporting me in public service for 37 years, and I want to give back to the community. I want to see this community thrive. I also want to see this community preserved. There's a quality of life here that we cannot allow to be destroyed. We cannot allow it to be destroyed. We need, you know, clean water because people enjoy swimming and they enjoy fishing and they enjoy clamming. You know, we need clean drinking water because we depend on our groundwater for our water supply. We need open space. We need a well-run town. We need a clean community. We need people to obey the laws that have been, you know, debated and adopted over many, many years in order to protect that quality of life. It's why we live here. It's why people want to come and spend money here. It's good for business. It's good for second homeowners. It's good for the people that earn their living here. It's the underlying theme that that we cannot lose sight of.
One of the key words that was in the first paragraph is the word precious. And I got to tell you, I bought my house. I was, you know, an administrator in Yonkers Public Schools, making a lot of money. I wish I had that money now. Making so much money. I could no longer leave the house. I couldn't leave East Hampton and go back to Hastings-on-Hudson, overlooking the Hudson River. Very lovely place. Very nice little river town. But it wasn't here. And here was where I had to be. I owned the house for 2 years and said, I'm out of here. So long, Yonkers.
Yeah.
And I retired. I had to retire. And I could have worked until I was 92 because I love what I did, and no matter what, it was a marvelous job. But I couldn't leave East Hampton. Even in the dead of winter, I love East Hampton. Now that, I know a lot of people, leave, not me. I don't want to leave then. I love it, And I'm so, as a matter of fact, I've often said to people, I wasn't for you when we were doing the screening committee. And the minute I saw you at that Springs listen-in, I said, oh, that's why they wanted him. Because I think your ability to understand what people are saying and to be able to respond to them, and even sometimes, as you did in Amagansett, in saying to somebody, I don't agree with you, and standing up for what you believe in and your passion for this town, that's for me. Because I'm putting my trust into you.
Well, that's a high compliment. I mean, I thank you very much. I mean, that's very kind of you to say. I mean,
It's not kindness. Believe me, I'm not a kind lady. It's not my thing to be kind.
You're tough, huh?
You bet. I'm not, with the last name Italiano, I had to go like this every time anybody said, what's your last name?
Right.
But I really and truly feel like putting my trust into you three guys, and you're going to make sure that I don't lose what I have here, that I'm going to be able to go down to my beach where I swim, and I'm going to have water that from my shoulders down, I can see my toes.
Yeah.
And that's, or the little turtle's going to come out of the woods and my grandchildren are going to marvel at,
Well, what the precious, I mean, you're describing the preciousness of what we have here. And, the community knows that, and the community shares that with, that same feeling that you have is what, I mean, it's part of the reason. Look, East Hampton has had great success over the years. I mean, if you think about the pressure that East Hampton has been under over the past 40 years, whether it's the Community Preservation Fund that has preserved thousands of acres, and many other, I mean, all the zoning that was put in place over many years, the comprehensive plan that was adopted, all point to the vision that you're describing, and whether you're a husband and wife working, two-family wage earner trying to raise a family in Springs, or whether you live, south of the highway in the village of East Hampton, or you're a struggling business person in Montauk, everyone shares that bond. They really do. I mean, they may disagree about how to get to a certain point, but I believe, almost everybody in East Hampton shares the vision that you just described, which is that this is a precious place and that we should do everything that we can to hang on to it. And that's the reason I'm running for supervisor.
Yay! That's all I have to say, because I am, the thought of it not being, what it is really devastating to me.
Yeah.
Devastating. I don't want it to become Nassau County. I simply don't. If I wanted Nassau County, I'd be living there.
Right.
I came here to live here, and I have to see it stay that way. And I will do everything I can to make sure that I can stay here. I know we were going to talk a little bit more about taxes and stuff like that, but I know that I can read it all in your 23 pages, you said. I thought it was 25. But
whatever it is, it's a lot.
Well, whatever it is a lot, but it's easy reading, and it's going to be on the website by the time this show airs on Wednesday.
Right, people can go to easthamptondems.com.
Yes, I just, you took it right out of my
Oh,
mouth.
sorry, I didn't want to step on your line.
easthamptondems.com, which I am kind of responsible for, and it will be on there. And it's a very easy read, and it covers just about an awful lot of the subjects that are, from the Springs, where I'm from, where we worry about, taxes and all of that kind of stuff, and our overcrowding and our septic systems and all that kind of stuff. I think you've hit upon an awful lot of that stuff right in that where we stand, you're calling it?
Yes.
It's under, I believe, the plan is what the heading it's under on the website. So I'm hoping that people will get a chance to look at that. And I just wish you much good luck. And also your colleagues, because I've interviewed almost every one of them, and I've been very impressed. We did a good job on that screening committee in picking those people, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, you should be. I'm very excited about it. It's a good team of people. Joe Potter and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez are both impressive in their own right. They bring points of view and experience and caring about the community, and I think it would be a great board.
And we will be able to watch it without having to scream at the television set like I've been doing the last couple of years. I'm sure we will. I know you. And
Well,
I
the
know
television ratings might go down at LTV a little bit, maybe. If we can do that, then we know we've accomplished something.
it won't be a show. It'll be a board
Let's
meeting.
hope.
That's what we're looking forward to. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.